right, welcome back, everybody. Segment 2 tonight, the Phoenix Lights. A lot of this goes without explaining for so many people who have paid attention to this, but if you are either new to the Phoenix Lights phenomenon or the saga, just a little explainer here. We're going to show you some video of what we're talking about. So the famous Phoenix Lights were two light formations seen in March of 1997. They were around 8 p.m. and 8:40 p.m. You can see here one of the formations were orbs that made a V formation, and then the others were seen in a line about 40 minutes later. Now, at the time, of course, this is 1997. Not everybody had great video cameras or had the ability to be able to film these things like that. And so people wondered, are these UFOs? Is this military activity? Like, what are we looking at in the sky? And while it has been deemed to be military activity, there is still quite a bit of suspicions that surround, is that actually what the Phoenix Lights are? So I want to bring in our second live interview tonight. This is Dr. Lynne Kitei. Lynne, we're so excited to have you on the show. You are a Phoenix Lights expert and researcher, but first and foremost, you captured some of this famous video. So I first want you to take me back to that night in March of 97. What were you doing? You go outside. What kind of camera did you have that got us to this place now?
Okay, firstly, it's a little serendipitous that you had the ghosts on because I've been studying this, and you're an investigator, and I'm a healthy skeptic, searching for a logical explanation to what I witnessed and photographed up close and personal. I'm the only one with 35 millimeter that actually the military and university optical experts have tried to analyze, and they've authenticated. One of the videos there is mine. I'll show you which one, the three lights right over Phoenix. But to start out with, the Phoenix Lights mass sighting of March 13th, 1997. There is so much mis and disinformation. It wasn't just one or two events, as you would hear in the media. It was many events, over a dozen hours, and over 7 states, actually. Starting in Arizona, daylight sightings at 3 p.m. Then at 5 o'clock, there were sightings of Native Americans in New Mexico, 7 o'clock hour, and beyond in California, 10, 11 o'clock hour. There were two commercial airline pilots that witnessed, and that's the other thing. It wasn't just lights. We're talking about actual craft as well, 1 to 8 miles wide, according to Peter Davenport, the director of the National UFO Reporting Center. These UAP, unexplained aerial phenomena, that's my video actually, were seen. One of the craft was seen covering Las Vegas, reported by two separate commercial airline pilots. And the sightings continued until 5:30 the next morning when a Boeing crew was coming into Sky Harbor International Airport, and one of these craft was hovering right over their tarmac at 5:30 the next morning. So there were many, many events happening. In fact, if anyone's interested, go to the Phoenix Lights Network. I've worked very hard to try to show everyone what we've learned in the last 30 years through our investigation. Very meticulous. I ended up with pushing my whole medical career aside. I'm an MD and also a witness up close and personal 2 years before the mass sighting, and really try to investigate everything and document everything as a scientist, as a physician, to let people know they're not crazy, even though most anomalies can be explained. Only a small percentage cannot. Just because we don't have the technology yet to definitively define what these things are, it doesn't mean they're not real. So it's time we get this topic out in the open and
Yeah.
address it, accept it, and study it so we can find out not only who's driving these things, but also move forward in our own evolution. Because in my own investigation, I have found that there all unexplained phenomena, whether it's near-death experience with a number of witnesses to the mass sighting, had near-death experiences as children that was reawakened by the mass sighting. Half my book is about this. And out-of-body experience, unexplained aerial phenomena with mystical light associated with the experience is very, very similar in the experience itself, but the after effect, the awakening, the enlightenment, also the reality that, and we're finding finding with quantum physics and quantum mechanics that there might be 10 or 11 different dimensions out there. And what we're finding with these phenomena, with these UAP, and now the military is even sharing their data, is that there may be other dimensions along with ours. And if there's other times and spaces along with ours, then why is it such a leap to think that there might be other entities, whether they're ghost entities, whether they're UFOs or other ET entities in these other times and spaces that we get glimpses of if we're open to them or invited. And
So,
I will get back to your question with March 13th. If
yeah.
anybody's interested, go to the Phoenix Lights Network website. It is packed with information, including my 35 millimeter photographs, many news entities as well
Yeah, I've
that are
seen them
terrific,
everywhere.
and the GAP page, GAP,
Okay.
Geospatial Animation Project, a 12-year study showed that there were 10 different craft
So,
that
but
people
so I
reported.
my
Far
question
more
for
people
you
want to
then,
see
I mean, I know
the
you've
same
done so
craft.
much
Sure.
research on this, but I mean, the experts did deem this military activity. You don't buy
Well,
that?
they did.
Well, so what's your take on that?
They came up with that a month after a USA Today article came out on June 19th. There was no, I'm sorry, June 18th. There was no explanation, no investigation as far as anybody knew. It just were crickets with government and military until a USA Today article came out, front page on
Hmm.
June 18th, and opened our sighting to international scrutiny. I mean, we're talking slow gliding, totally silent, these 1 to 8 mile wide UAP at rooftop level. And some people saw these things take off at blank speed without even dispersing the air, totally silent. Others saw them just split in two and shoot straight up. I mean, the data is mind-boggling. The data speaks for itself. Others saw these orbs detached from the main object, go out into the environment, and then redock with it later. But the only hard evidence that really came forward at the time. I had 35 millimeter, but I was having it analyzed for 7 years till I was sure that it was real and that it could not be explained, were the videos during the mass sighting. And if you look at the videos, they could be
Hmm.
mistaken for other things. And a month after this USA Today article, actually the day after, suddenly we get a public announcement that then former Governor Symington was calling a press conference to reveal the culprit of the lights over Phoenix after nothing for months. And he comes marching out, one of his aides in a giant alien head costume, and made a mockery of it, which was not funny for the witnesses that actually saw something right over their heads, especially parents that saw something 2 and 3 malls wide, and he's making a mockery of it. They had to come up with something. And again, the only hard evidence they had were the videos. And a month later, I had investigated. I mean, I called every military base after this press conference, and they were more curious to see what I had documented than giving an answer to it. They didn't know either. They were just as curious. And I get a call from one of the heads of the PR from the Air National Guard. And she says, "Oh, Dr. Lynne, I think we know what those lights were back in March." And I was thrilled. I was looking for any logical explanation. She says, "Do you believe nobody looked at the log for visiting Air National Guard, and the Maryland Air National Guard was in town sending off military illumination flares in Operation Snowbird, which we, call people to come from out of town snowbirds. But I found out later that in military terms, it means diversionary tactical maneuvers. And they may have been sending off flares to divert attention away from the true unknowns. But that certainly isn't what thousands, I mean, we're talking 10 to 20,000 people saw
Saw
on
that.
March 13th, 1997. And one thing that proves the point is that 3 years later, the councilwoman Frances Barwood, she was the also the vice mayor of Phoenix,
Hmm.
was running for Secretary of State to get answers for the Phoenix Lights and asking for a reenactment. And suddenly we get a public announcement that 3 Air National Guards coming into town to show everyone the Phoenix Lights. And talk about a joke. They tried to make a triangle, it was upside down, it fell apart immediately. And flares have huge smoke coming from them, okay? Not one witness, not one, to describe this. And also flares cannot keep a formation. They drift and drop with the wind. And I said to her, well, wait a minute. When was the Maryland Air National Guard in town? She said March 1st to the 15th. I said, were they in town in January? There's a lot more to this story, I have to tell you, Brianna.
Yeah.
She says, not, no. I said, are you sure? She says, absolutely not. I photographed it. You go to the photo page on the Phoenix Lights Network website. You will see 2 months before the mass sighting, I captured on 35 millimeter. They're in the negative. They cannot be denied or explained. The same exact phenomena that I would videotape during the mass sighting are in the same exact location in a
Mm.
straight line over a mile wide, turning into a V shape. And 2 months before, I had called around and I found air traffic controllers who saw the same thing at the same time over Class B restricted airspace. And I called them the morning after the mass sighting and I said, was it the same thing? It looked like the same thing as 2 months ago, and they confirmed that it was the same exact thing over
Huh.
Class B restricted airspace. Anyway, she says, you never told me that. And I said, besides, you're trying to tell me that flares, again, they cannot keep a formation. They're dropped from on
Right.
parachutes from aircraft, and they drift and drop haphazardly to the ground in seconds or minutes at the most, and have huge smoke trails that are illuminated by the flare itself, traverse the entire state in a rock solid V formation, equidistantly spaced for hours. And she says, I have a call coming in. I'll get back to you. Well, I'm still waiting, Brianna.
For that call. So
So it's
so
never been explained. So that
so
was the only, by the way, Brianna, that was the only explanation they ever came up with. They never addressed the craft. I mean, we're talking gunmetal bottoms and windows with beings at the windows that very credible people reported. So there's much more to this story. So I
so
invite
if
people to visit the Phoenix
yeah,
Lights Network
well,
website.
right. I mean, it's a ton of information. So let's say it wasn't military activity. On the most basic level, what do you think it was?
Okay, that's the other thing. 2 months, 2 years before the mass sighting, my husband, who's also a physician and a healthy skeptic, and I, we live mountainside in Paradise Valley, have a panoramic view of the city skyline and know what planes and helicopters and streetlights and car lights look like, had a very close sighting to our home of three oval amber orbs in a pyramid formation, and I have the pictures to prove it, right outside our bedroom window. And as we watched, they cloaked right in front of us. They shrunk very, very, very slowly, mechanically, as if there was an intelligence behind them. And I got pictures of them. And that cannot be explained or denied by top university and military optical experts. So um, we don't know what they are yet. I just know that they are. And that, very happy that we're able to share it today. And the Phoenix Lights mass sighting is really hailed worldwide by
So what does that mean?
experts and
Like when you say they
scientists
just
as the most
are,
witnessed.
like
I'm
you
sorry.
said well, you said they just are. Like that's why when I ask you what do you think it is? I mean, are you saying like a do you know?
I don't know. I don't know what they are. I just know that they are, and I have evidence to prove that they're real, and nobody can explain it to me. I'd love somebody to explain it to me. I'd love to find out. I've been investigating this for over 30 years,
Well,
and
you have
still,
so much information. Like, what? What do you say? Because it's a lot, and there are people who say you guys are insane. This is crazy. What do you say to those people who doubt
well, that's
your
why I came forward
skepticism?
after 7 years. Yeah, that's why I came forward after 7 years of anonymity, because the data speaks for itself. I had a 750-page journal. After I looked into this, I had no idea. I knew nothing about this topic at all.
Right.
And once I started looking, I started finding such credible data by scientists and military and pilots that this has been going on for centuries, and Native Americans, by the way. And that's a really important connection here. In fact, serendipitously, 6 months before the mass sighting, I produced video and workbook curriculums on vital health issues for over 50 years, which is kind of ironic because when this fell in my lap, I felt obliged to do the same for this vital topic. But 6 months before the mass sighting, and this is really important data as well, I was invited to present my substance abuse prevention education program at the Gila Bend Indian Reservation. And they had one school and they reside in between South Mountain and the Estrella Mountains, miles back. The area in between the basin is very sacred ground. And after the mass sighting, and as a scientist, and in science, we look for repeatability. And if you look on the photo page on the Phoenix Lights Network website, these phenomena keep popping up right in that area where South Mountain and the Estrellas intersect. So I called the principal, and they don't talk to outsiders, but I helped him out, and I said, did anybody see strange lights on March 13th? And he started to giggle. And I said, is that funny? And he said, are you kidding? We've been looking up at them for centuries. We call them sky people, light beings. I had no idea. That's the first I heard of it.
So
In
that Native
fact,
American
indigenous cultures
connection kind of is something.
worldwide, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Interesting.
indigenous cultures worldwide, the Hopi, right
Yeah,
here in
yeah.
Arizona, have protocols to invite them in. That's how the Estrellas got its name. It means star in Spanish, gateway to the stars, and they believe that there's a portal or gateway right in that area. And again, just look at my data. It speaks for itself.
Interesting.
That's why I finally
Yep.
shared it after
Yeah.
7 years of anonymity, so that people can look and decide for themselves. Everybody comes from a different background, different upbringing, different belief system. Some people can't deal with this topic, and some people don't want to, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone in their own time. But the data is there now if people want to search it out. And now with the, we have congressional hearings, UFO congressional hearings as well, where we have whistleblowers, we have pilots and military, and videos that it's coming out. It's all
Yeah.
coming out
Well, we
now.
have, I don't know
And,
if you can see on your screen,
there's much more to the
we have
story.
somebody commenting here
Yeah.
that night the Phoenix Lights first happened. Her mom and stepfather said they saw UFOs flying over the San Carlos Apache reservation. So it kind of, backs up what you're talking about too, about our reservation land and the lights. And so, I mean, we're still waiting, I guess, to find out. And I think that, the important thing here, Dr. Lynne, is the research that you're doing and your team, and that it's an ongoing study as to what happened that night and other nights back in the 90s. So I super appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you. It was a lot of information. I'm still processing everything I just learned from you. And I think
Yeah,
that that's the thing, though.
starting to get very
No, I know
passionate, because
you've
it's really
dedicated
important
decades.
stuff, and it's coming out in the open now, and people can learn more and more about it. It's really a very credible thing. I would not have come forward. Okay, I am a medical doctor, and it's very precarious to come forward
Yeah.
if I didn't do my research and investigate. You're an investigator, and see that now it is the most witnessed, most documented, most important mass anomalous sighting in modern history, if not all of history. And
Yeah.
I welcome people to again look at the Phoenix Lights Network website. We have a study that's going on that's confirming that not only is the hardware really incredible, but the Phoenix Lights, and this is really important, there was not one report of harm, threat, or abduction associated with the Phoenix Lights phenomenon. I can't speak for other things, but I can about the Phoenix Lights. But they affected people at a very deep level. And we are confirming that. If anybody saw the Phoenix Lights that's out there on March 13th, 1997, please join our study. We have over 1,000 people from all over the world
Oh,
that have
wow.
seen similar phenomena, these orbs or these craft, and it's mind-boggling. We'll be actually sharing the results of the study very soon. I'll let you know about it because it's
Yeah,
very
please
exciting.
do.
It's really confirming scientifically with
Wow.
PhDs and MDs working on the project with myself, that these whoever did this not only wanted to be seen in a very gentle, non-threatening way, but they woke people up to the wondrous possibilities in the universe.
There you go. There you go. On
And
that,
that we're
Dr.
not alone.
And then we're not alone, right? Dr. Lynne, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's always fascinating. We appreciate it, and we'll be staying on top of all the studying and research you do. So thank you so much.
It's looking up.
Keep looking up. Like it.